What's going on, guys? I'm IcyRhythms, and this is my review for The Last of Us.
What are we doing?
All right.
The Last of Us is one of those games from last generation that holds up really well visually, in my opinion. I didn't play it until 2015 when I finally felt like buying a PS4, so naturally, my first experience was with the remastered version of the game. It's still a beautiful game 6 years later, although for me, I feel Uncharted 3 still looks better, and I think it's Naughty Dog's best looking game from last generation. I'll probably always feel that way. I've just always been more impressed with the Uncharted games for many different reasons, but for a linear narrative driven game, it really didn't get much better than The Last of Us last generation. A few other exclusives and a handful of multiplats I'd put over it, but not many. Not 10, maybe not even 5. The Last of Us was doing things with lighting and shadows that most games from last generation weren't doing. If you look at a lot of the games through the current generation, a lot of these games still aren't doing a lot of the things that Naughty Dog are doing. In-game character models obviously lose a huge amount of detail from the cutscene stuff when you transition to the actual gameplay, but for those of us that have been playing for a long time, things like that are to be expected. Environments are all nicely detailed and varied. I think, like a lot of people, my favorite area is the university or anywhere where there's snow in this game. I wish there had been a lot more gameplay time spent in the snow. It's no secret I'm a big fan of snow, water, and rain in games. In my opinion, The Last of Us, even in 2019, is a pretty exceptional looking game, even when stuff like Uncharted 4 has released from Naughty Dog, and The Last of Us 2's visuals have been seen and do seem to shine quite a bit higher than those games, but I still think it's a pretty impressive looking game for a linear title.
Ellie, run! Run!
They're coming from everywhere! Hey,
Well, that was easier than I thought it'd be.
Oh man, where to start with the gameplay in The Last of Us? I feel like, on one hand, The Last of Us can be tons of fun because it's so brutal and the melee combat is ultra satisfying. It's awesome at times. It's very awesome at times. On the other hand, just as like a surface level opinion, it's very basic. Certainly not overly generic or ever boring. I can't say I've ever been bored playing The Last of Us. I think one of my only negatives are some of the horse sections where the camera is terrible and it just feels extremely limited and on rails. You'll spend a lot of time crouched and sneaking around in this game. Something like avoiding clickers is a lot more challenging and quite a bit more fun than avoiding human NPCs that are not infected and just carrying shotguns. It's little things like that that I do think make the game a lot more fun. There's a good deal of weapon variety, and Naughty Dog did a good job of not handing you everything that you can do and everything that you can handle in the first 2 hours of the game. It's going to require that you play all the way through to find all of the weapons. They all have their pros and cons, but because of the way the combat and the gore system works, every dangerous item you pick up can and probably will have a devastating effect on enemies. There's other things too, like an upgrade table, and as far as I know, this is the only way you can upgrade your weapons. There aren't tons of them, so the game encourages you to take advantage while you can. Upgrading health or crafting new items can be done at any time if you have all the proper materials in your bag. A lot of the better stuff is in short supply, so get those headshots, use arrows when you feel like you can, and stealth kill whenever possible. There are a few moments in the game where I wouldn't say things become a shooting gallery, but shots count a little less than they did elsewhere in the game, and vice versa. You'll find that in certain sections of the game, especially when you start playing as Ellie, you'll need to make the shots count a little bit more. Naughty Dog put a lot of attention to detail in The Last of Us. You guys know how I feel about developers going the extra mile. Sometimes you can put a bullet right in the middle of an enemy's head. Other times you can blow part of his head and shoulder off with a shotgun. It's all pretty incredible. I love stuff like that. Why the hell don't we have more games doing, more developers doing what guys like Rockstar and Naughty Dog and games like Evil Within from Tango Gameworks have done with bullet damage and gore systems? Killing Floor 2 stands out. Hell, even the original Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2 have a great gore system. Bullet damage is awesome even now in those games. Why in 2019 do we not have more bullet damage in games where there are bullets? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. If your game has guns, it's a video game. Get a little crazy and over the top and add some awesome bullet damage and even explosive damage for that matter. My only other two complaints with the game are the AI, both friendly and from the enemies themselves, as well as just wanting more playtime from the game. A lot more gameplay from The Last of Us. Ellie will straight up rub up against and right in front of enemies and never be seen. She, and for a short time Tess, make awful decisions that should get everyone killed in a game that's really wanting you to be immersed in its great visuals and environments that are very detailed. This, for me, and like I mentioned before, the gameplay and the brutal nature of the game, for a game that wants you to be so immersed and feel like this could maybe actually happen, things like this just shouldn't be in a game like this, especially a linear game like this. This is, behavior like that from the enemies as well as the friendlies is something I would expect from an open world game that just launched or something that's very buggy. I can't believe I'm still seeing that in this game. Hopefully that's something that they can improve with The Last of Us 2, but the way it's looking now, I don't know if that's going to be very much of a babysitter simulator, as some would call it. I don't see it going that route. It looks like you're going to play Ellie most, if not all, of the game. They can literally clip into enemies' bodies at any time, and it won't matter. It's things like that that bother me a little bit. Nothing that I would dock any points for or anything. This game is going to get a very solid score. I guess my thing is, again, if you're going to have me babysitting at some points in a game, the AI needs to be a little bit better and the clipping needs to come down considerably. The gameplay in The Last of Us is simple. Nothing overly complex or even a little bit complex about it. When it's working and working well, there's not many games in this genre that can be this fun. I just wish there had been a lot more of it when it comes to that really fun and awesome, overly brutal gameplay.
A few weeks back, I sent a group of men out to a nearby town to look for food. Only a few came back. They said that the others had been slaughtered by a crazy man. And get this, he's a crazy man traveling with a little girl. You see, everything happens for a reason. Don't get upset.
No doubt about it, the story in The Last of Us is why I think most people hold this game up on a pedestal. It's not really original except in name, but the execution of this story, the execution of this writing, the emotion that you can read on these characters' faces is top notch. It's, voice acting the solid writing, the great animation for the emotions these characters have at times is some of the best in the business, and that has been the case for Naughty Dog for quite some time. There is this moment in the game early on with Joel's daughter, and Naughty Dog really wants you to care about this moment. I couldn't care very much, and I've played through this game at least 6 times. For me, it's I need to feel attached to a character and spend a little bit more time with them before I can get the least bit emotional. I was more emotional over the death of Tess than the death of Sarah, and that's just my opinion. That's how I feel. What I took from it is that, and selfish decisions by Joel by the end of the game make a lot more sense because of that death. I'm not sure if Naughty Dog intended the player to feel extremely emotional by Sarah's death, but it's more about understanding how he grew to love Ellie, and even when things seemed at their worst and he was tired, he couldn't give up on her or himself. Joel knew that he had to do better, that he had to be better, and couldn't just give up on someone because of the loss of his daughter. The Last of Us, to me, isn't about the infected or how they became infected. It's about people. It's about people making decisions, good or bad, that they'll have to live with for the rest of their life. Are you supposed to agree with Joel's selfish decision at the end of this game? Are you supposed to agree with him lying to Ellie? The game displays emotion so well at times, I'm not even sure Ellie believed Joel.
Whole lot more like you, Ellie. People that are immune. There's dozens, actually. Ain't done 'em a damn bit of good, neither. They've stopped looking for a cure. I'm taking us home.
And I want to give a quick side mention to a character that I feel gets overlooked a lot and doesn't show up in a lot of mentions when people start talking about this game, but Bill is great. I really like Bill. I feel like Bill is probably the second or third best character in the game. You don't spend tons of time with Bill, but I feel that time that you do spend is well done, well executed by Naughty Dog and the writers of this game. And for me, one thing is his character is homosexual. Bill is a gay character from what I can see, and this isn't completely shoved down your throat like, hey, accept this, deal with it. You know, they make little hints to it and they leave it alone. That's it. Like that's the only thing that you're supposed to know, but that's what this game is about. I love the interaction, and I love that people are still very human in this universe and in this world that they've created. I'm hoping Ellie is faced with even greater decisions in the sequel, and hell, maybe will play more of a role in how those consequences play out. That, to me, could possibly make for a much better story and overall experience by the end.
Well, fuck him.
Look what I found. It's got some juice in it. Oh. Why are these all stuck together? I'm just fucking with you. Bye-bye, dude.
I really enjoyed my time with The Last of Us for this review. Every time I play it, I think I like it just a little bit more, in fact. My initial playthrough was sort of met with this is pretty good, but not like everyone else is telling me. Now I'm more in the ballpark of, man, this game is so much fun. I wish there had been a lot more gameplay, a lot more meat on the bones of this game. And they can still tell me a great story, even with that being said. It's a great game and deserves every bit of a 9 that I can give it. It's not a masterpiece. Hell, it's not even Naughty Dog's best game. But I'll say this, Uncharted 4 was a little bit of a letdown for me, and I think at this point, I like The Last of Us more. Uncharted is still my favorite as a whole, but The Last of Us is a better game than Uncharted 4. Sorry, not sorry. In 2013, I think most gamers had their eye on 3 games. There were a lot of games, really cool games in 2013, but 3 games in particular. GTA 5, The Last of Us, of course, and BioShock Infinite. Out of those three, I still think BioShock Infinite is my favorite. GTA 5 certainly won its own awards and crushed both games, all games that year in sales. But, maybe take a look at The Last of Us, because at one point it was the most awarded game of all time. And even though those awards are just opinions, maybe playing it for yourself would give you an idea of what all that hype is all about, or maybe isn't about for you. You guys should maybe check it out. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. I believe my next review will be for Uncharted Lost Legacy. If it's good enough, Uncharted Lost Legacy will be the next review. Thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate it. Take care. Share, like, subscribe. All that stuff helps me out. Links to Twitter, links to Twitch in the description. Have a good one. Peace.